children. Well, in today's class of English language, we shall take up a grammar lesson where we will talk about the general rules for changing direct speech into indirect speech. Well, this is a continuation lesson of what we did in the last class. In case if you have forgotten what we've done in the last class, a bit of recapitulation on what we did in the last class. Well, in the last lesson, we talked about direct speech and indirect speech, where we also learned briefly how to convert direct speech into indirect speech. So today's class is the continuation of this same lesson, okay, as part 2. Alright, so let's get started then. Well, by now everyone must be knowing what is direct speech and indirect speech, right? So when do we use direct speech and indirect speech then? Well, we use direct speech when we report something, using the exact word of the speaker, okay? Then when do we use the indirect speech then? Well, we use indirect speech when we report something in our own words or in our own language, okay? Just look at the example. With the help of example, we will just see what I am saying right now. Well, suppose a boy is saying that I'm feeling tired. I am feeling tired, okay? So when you have to report what the boy said, then you can report the same thing in two ways, okay? First is you can say the boy said, I am feeling tired. Now here, what you are saying, the boy said, I am feeling tired. Now, I am feeling tired is the exact words of the speaker, isn't it? Okay, so this speech is in the direct speech. That, the boy said, I am within inverted comma. Why inverted comma? Because you are quoting the exact words or exact speech of the speaker, okay? So this sentence is in what? Direct speech. That is, the boy said, I am feeling tired, okay? Now the same speech, if you have to say it, in an indirect speech, in your own language, without quoting his words, how would you say? Then the same sentence becomes what? When you convert in indirect speech, it becomes what? The boy said. The boy said that he was feeling tired. Okay, so this is your indirect speech. Now you can see, you can notice the difference between direct speech and indirect speech here. Indirect speech, though you know that in indirect speech we have used the direct speech of the speaker, and in indirect speech what we have used our own words. Okay, now this is what we are going to study today. What are the rules for doing this? How do we change this? We have these two sentences, has the same meaning, but one is in direct speech, the other one is in direct speech. So this is exactly what we are going to learn today. There are certain rules that you have to keep in mind while converting these sentences. That is the main topic that we are going to focus today. Okay. Now see, in the last class also briefly I had told you that when you are converting the speech, direct speech into indirect speech, the very first thing that you have to remember is that briefly I had told in the last class that when you convert direct speech into indirect speech, first of all, the inverted comma, you have to remove inverted comma, right? And secondly is that if the speech is in, if the verb is in present tense, then while converting it becomes what? In indirect speech it becomes past tense, right? And the third thing is that the reported verb, like in the reported verb also, especially when you're changing direct speech and indirect speech, in indirect speech what we notice is that we use the conjunction that. These three briefly I had told in the last class, right? Now, but today we will see in detail. Every rules we will try to understand with the help of example. There are about 5-6 general rules that I'm going to explain you, but each rules we will try to understand with the help of examples, right? Okay. Now let us see the general rules then, changing direct speech into indirect speech. Okay, first rule is omit all inverted commas or quotation marks and end the sentence with a full stop. Okay. Now second is, if the verb inside the inverted comma, or a quotation mark is in present tense, if it is in a simple present tense, then change that verb into the verb gets changed into past tense. Now these two rules I told you just now. First is omit all the inverted commas. Get rid of inverted comma and end the sentence with a full stop. Second, if the verb inside the inverted comma is in present tense, then you've got to change it into past tense. Now the same 2 points which I'm telling you verbally, we will see with the help of an example. Okay, right. Now for example, say if Vicky says, Vicky is saying, I like singing. Vicky is saying, I like singing. Now if you have to report this speech, indirect speech, okay, how would you say? You say, Vicky said, within inverted comma, I like singing. Right. Now this sentence is in what? It is in direct speech. Okay, why? Because we are using the direct speech of the speaker. That is, I like singing. Okay, now when you convert this sentence into indirect speech, I explained you 2 rules just now. Now we are going to apply those 2 rules here. Okay, first, convert it into indirect speech. When you convert it into indirect speech, the first rule, you apply it, get rid of the inverted commas. That means omit inverted commas. Okay, so in indirect speech, when you report the same words, it becomes what? Vicky said. Okay, then I told you that when you convert speech from direct to indirect speech, you have to make use of a conjunction, that. Okay, Vicky said that. Now, second rule is what? If the verb is in the present tense, like is in present tense, right? You have to change it into what? A past tense. Okay, you have to change it into a corresponding past tense. So the sentence becomes, you are reporting in the indirect speech now, remember. So the sentence becomes, Vicky said that he liked singing. So did you see that? Did you notice something here? Okay, so in direct speech, as you are reporting the exact words of the speaker, so the sentence appears like, Vicky said, within inverted comma, I like singing. Right. Now you remember, this whole lesson today is about the general rules of how to convert direct speech into indirect speech. Rule number 2 we are going to apply in this sentence. Okay. With the help of this sentence, we are going to try to understand 2 rules here. First, get rid of the inverted comma when you are converting the sentence. You have got rid of the inverted commas. Right? You have omitted the inverted commas. There is no inverted commas there. You have ended the sentence with a full stop. Right? The sentence has been ended with a full stop. And what? If the verb is in the past tense, in present tense, you have to change it into past tense. You have changed it into past tense. Like became liked. So did you see that? So these 2 rules we try to understand with the help of this example. Okay, let me tell you once again. First rule is, get rid of the quotation mark, inverted commas, and end the sentence with a full stop. Second rule is, if the verb is in the present tense, change it into a past tense. So these are the examples. I hope you understood the 2 rules. Now let's switch on to the next rule then. Okay, the third rule that you have to remember while converting direct speech into indirect speech is, if the verb is in the simple past tense, then change it into a past perfect tense. Right? See, in rule number 2, what did we learn? Just before this, in the example, what did we see? We saw that if the verb is in the present tense, we change it into past tense. Right? Now in rule number 3, what we are going to learn is that if the verb within the quotation mark, if the verb within the inverted comma is in past tense, then what happens? We have to change it into what? Past perfect tense. The verb inside the quotation mark, if it is in the past tense, then we change it into what? Past perfect tense. That is rule number 3. Rule number 1 will be applied here also, that is getting rid of the inverted commas or a quotation mark. Rule number 1 will be applied in all the rules that we are going to come up again, come up in the following coming up sentences. That will apply in every sentences. The main thing is here in rule number 3, what we are going to see is, if the verb inside the inverted comma, if it is past tense, it has to be converted into past perfect tense. Okay, look at the example there. we'll see with the help of example. We'll try to. It'll be more. It'll be more clear if we try to understand this with the help of a sentence example. Okay, right. Now, if Rohan says that I met Rahul yesterday. Rohan said, I met Rahul yesterday. Now, if you have to report this sentence into a direct speech, then how will you say? You will say that Rohan said, comma, within inverted comma, you will say, I met Rahul yesterday. Now, I met Rahul yesterday is the direct speech of Rohan, right? I met Rahul yesterday is the direct speech of Rohan. So, you are quoting his exact speech here. So this sentence is in what? Direct speech. And the speech has to be within inverted commas since you are quoting his exact words. Right. Now, we'll convert this. Now, here in this sentence, we are applying, what are we applying? That, if the verb is in the past tense, the verb has to be changed into past perfect tense. Now see, what is the verb in this sentence? The verb in this sentence, sentence means the sentence within inverted comma. The verb is what? Met. N-E-T, met. Right? Now this met has to be converted into what? Past perfect tense. I'm sure you know what is perfect tense by now. We've already done so many lessons on perfect tenses, but just a bit of small reminder that whenever we talk about perfect tense, what comes in our mind, or what comes in your mind rather when you talk about perfect tense? Obviously, have, has, or had, isn't it? Okay, so we'll not go to that in detail. Otherwise, we'll go out of the topic. We'll just stick on to indirect and direct speech here. Okay, see, you see now this sentence, I met Rahul yesterday, is in direct speech. Change it into indirect speech. So Rohan said that you have to use, because in indirect speech the conjunction that you have to use, right? Rohan said that. Now I becomes, I is I means who is I? I is Rohan, so you have to use what? A pronoun here. Okay, so he had met. So had met is the past perfect tense of met, isn't it? Okay, he had met Rahul yesterday, or sometimes instead of yesterday you can also use the word previous day also, you can say. Okay, so the sentence here, when you are changing here, we have applied rule number 3 here. That is, if the sentence is in if the verb in the sentence is in past tense, we will change it into what? Past perfect tense. Once again, I'm going to read the sentence. Rohan said, I met Rahul yesterday. Direct speech. In indirect speech, the verb changes into perfect tense. So, Rohan said that he had met Rahul yesterday, or the previous day also, you can say. Okay, so that's rule number 3. Now, let us see rule number 4. What is rule number 4 then? Well, when the verb inside the quotation mark or within the inverted comma, if the verb inside the a verb inside the inverted comma is the universal truth, then what we do not normally change it into a past tense. See, till now what were we learning? What is the main rule that we learned while changing the speech from direct to indirect speech? What we learned is that when we are changing a speech from direct to indirect speech, the verb, if it is in present tense, it changes into past tense. If it is past tense, it changes into perfect tense, right? But here, suppose if the verb inside the inverted comma that you're using is a universal truth, okay, if it is universal truth, then the sentence will remain the same. The verb inside the inverted comma will remain the same. It will not change. Okay, let's take up an example to understand this better. Okay, see, I've written one sentence there. The leader said, all people have equal rights. Okay, this speech is in direct speech. The leader said, all people have equal rights. Now this all people have equal right. Now this is a universal truth. Right, okay. So when you change the sentence into an indirect speech, now what happens? The sentence or the verb inside the quotation marks remains the same. But the first rule will apply here. What is that first rule? That inverted comma gets omitted and you've got to make use of a conjunction that. So when you change the sentence into indirect speech, how does it appear? Well, the leader said that all people have equal rights. Okay, in the direct speech also it was what? The leader said, within inverted comma, all people have equal rights. This is the general truth. Okay, now when you change it into indirect speech also, it will remain the same. And how does it sound like? The leader said that all people have equal rights. It doesn't change. This is rule number 4. Okay, in rule number 4, if it is universal truth, then the verb doesn't change. It remains the same. The only thing is the inverted comma has to be omitted and the sentence has to be ended with a full stop. Right? Okay. Now the next rule is, see, use pronouns appropriately. Now what is the pronoun? You know what is a pronoun? Okay, a pronoun is a word that is used in place of a noun. Okay. Now sometimes what happens is that when we are changing the sentences, it is not always necessary that we use the noun again and again. What is the use of a pronoun? We can use pronoun instead of noun, but simply using pronoun instead of noun is not enough. You have to use it appropriately and correctly also. The placement has to be correct. Okay, how we're going to find that here in this with the help of this example. Well, see, I'm going to write one sentence there. Just check it out. Shyam told Rita, I told you that we were not going for a vacation. Okay, what did Shyam told Rita? He told that I told you that we were not going on a vacation. Okay, now this is the direct speech of Shyam. He is telling it to Rita. Okay, now this speech is quoted or this speech is reported in a direct speech. This speech is the exact word. These are the exact words of Shyam told to Rita. I told you that we were not going on a vacation, Shyam told to Rita. Okay, now this speech is in direct speech. Now when we change this into indirect speech, now see this, by the way, this rule what we are talking here is use of pronoun appropriately or correctly. Okay, so Shyam told Rita that you don't have to repeat, you don't have to repeat the noun again and again. Some of you might say Shyam told Rita that Shyam had told Rita that they were not going on a vacation. You could say no, again and again you might repeat the noun, but not necessary. Okay, you can use the pronoun, but you have to use it correctly. Okay, so how would you convert it into indirect speech? You would say Shyam told Rita that he had told her. Okay, he had told her that they were not going on a vacation. Who is he? He is Shyam. Who is her? Her is Rita. Okay, the first sentence is in direct speech. So the rule that we are applying here is making use of the pronoun correctly and appropriately. Okay, so I repeat once again. Shyam told Rita that he had told her that they were not going on a vacation. Okay, so we saw rule number 5 here. First is inverted commas have been omitted, removed. The sentence has ended with a full stop, and instead of repeating the noun again and again, we have made use of what? Pronoun. That's rule number 5. Okay, now let's see rule number 6. Okay, rule number 6 is when the reporting verb is in the present or a future tense. Reporting verb I'm talking about. Okay, when the reporting verb is in the present or in a future tense, then we do not change the verb inside the quotation mark. Now you know what is a reporting verb. Okay, now in this, okay, I'll give you one example. Let's see an example there. Maya says I will go. Okay, Maya says I will go. Okay, here in this sentence, Maya is a noun, right? Maya is a noun. Says is a reporting verb. Says is a reporting verb. Then you have the exact words of the speaker, that is I will go. Okay, Maya says I will go. Now rule number 6 that we are talking about in this sentence is that If the reporting verb is in the present tense or in a future tense, then the verb inside the quotation mark will not change. It will remain the same. Understood? So in this sentence, Maya says, I will go. In this sentence, what is the reporting verb? Reporting verb is says. And says is in which tense? It is in present tense. Isn't it? So if the verb, reporting verb is in present tense, then the verb inside the quotation mark will not change. That means I will go, remain I will go in the indirect speech. Okay. Now look at the indirect speech there. In indirect speech, it appears Maya says that she will go. What is the verb in the first sentence? In the direct sentence, in the direct speech rather, in a direct speech, what is the verb inside the reported speech? Will go. Isn't it? What is the verb? Will go. So in the indirect speech also, it will remain will go only. Okay. Why? Because the reported verb is in the present tense. You understood? So once again, rule number 6, if the reported verb is in the present tense or in future tense, then the verb within the inverted comma will not change. Like in this sentence, the reported verb is in present tense, that is says. No, it is in present tense. That's why we are not changing the verb in the quotation mark also. In the direct speech also, the verb was will go, and in the indirect speech also, the verb has remained will go only. But remember that the first rule, that is omitting of inverted comma and ending the sentence of full stop, will remain in all type of sentences. Okay, that the conversion that we are talking about. All right. So, well, I think these are the rules. These are the 6 important rules that you'll have to keep in mind when you are converting the sentences from direct speech to indirect speech. Okay. Well, related to this topic, I shall provide some assignment. Kindly do, catch me up in WhatsApp, so where I shall provide you some assignment. And if you have any queries, I always say that you know my number. Do drop some message, or you can even call me directly to clear out your queries. Okay. Till then, stay connected and stay safe.